A couple of days ago, Lucasfilms and Bethesda announced their partnership for a game based on the Indiana Jones franchise. And now, continuing this wave of unexpected announcements, Ubisoft comes out of the shadow to reveal they're taking the helm of an open-world, story-driven Star Wars game. Even though I did have my issues with a couple of Ubisoft games last year, if there's one company that has the resources to nail this, it's Ubisoft. And there's a lot of possibilities here. I think this game could go into two different directions, either focus on a Jedi character or something else completely, like a bounty hunter, for example. And since the game is being handled by Ubisoft Massive, the team behind the Division games, I believe the second option is more likely. Also, with the incredible success of The Mandalorian, I'm sure Lucasfilms feels much more confident now about telling stories without Jedis as protagonists. I might be wrong, but we'll see. So with all that being said, here are 5 things I want in Ubisoft's upcoming Star Wars game. One of the most promising cancelled projects in the history of gaming has to be Star Wars 1313. This was a Boba Fett bounty hunting game set in Coruscant's underworld metropolis inspired by Grand Theft Auto. Now, if that doesn't sound amazing to you, I don't know what will. The game was actually well into development and a full gameplay demo was revealed back at E3. But when Lucasfilms was sold to Disney, the game fell into development limbo, leading to a slow and painful death. But one of my wishes for this new Ubisoft game is for it to be a spiritual successor of some kind. And looking at the current Star Wars ecosystem, seeing how popular The Mandalorian is, I think a bounty hunting game is a relatively safe bet. Especially when we know this is developed by the team behind The Division. It all just makes sense, in my opinion. Imagine how awesome it would be to run around the open world, receiving contracts and hunting down criminals. I don't know about you guys, but I'm down for this. My next wish is to have an interesting setting and varied environments. Now, my knowledge of Star Wars is pretty limited, so I might be completely wrong about this. Please tell me in the comments if I am, but from what I understand, planets in this universe are usually one thing and one thing only. You have the desert planet, the ice planet, the lava planet, you get the idea. Same thing with cities, it's either super futuristic or rustic and ancient. That being said, if there's one planet that mixes all of these together to some extent, I think the game should take place there. Yes, they could just make multiple smaller open worlds on different planets instead of just one big, but honestly, I would prefer a single but super dense world. Although I admit, it's tough to imagine a Star Wars game without space travel. But if Ubisoft had to choose a single planet to set the game in, I think my vote would either go to Coruscant or Jeddah before the attack. Coruscant simply because it's a planet filled with cities. There's also economic struggles between the wealthy and the poor living in the underworld, which could be an interesting plot point. And Jeddah, not only is it a desert planet with large amounts of open areas to explore, but it's also the home of a sprawling city with crowded markets and shops. The planet also has a past directly linked to the Force and the Kyber crystals and is actually believed by some to be the location of the first Jedi temple. Strangely enough, that game would look a lot like Jak 3, with Spargus City, the Wasteland, and the temple, but that certainly wouldn't be an issue with me. But again, every planet could be an interesting backdrop for a game. If you have better ideas, which I'm sure you guys are full of, leave them down below because I don't even know what I'm talking about right now. One thing I've always loved about Star Wars is how a lot of its technology, especially the one we see on low-tech planets, seems to be DIY. As if characters were scavenging some old piece of tech found in scrapyards and putting them together. Which is why a good crafting system could be a really neat addition. Now this is a Ubisoft game, so it will definitely have crafting in it, but usually I'm not the biggest fan of putting these types of mechanics in every single game. Recently, it's kind of been the running joke in the industry. Every game seems to have a crafting component nowadays, but in that particular case, I believe it would fit perfectly inside that world and would actually benefit the experience. Which brings me to my next wish, a detailed world. If there's a single thing that can make a science fiction world come to life, in my opinion, is details. When every single element has some kind of foundation in the lore, suddenly everything feels real and palpable. And Ubisoft already made a game back in 2003 that showcases this. Yes, I'm talking about Beyond Good and Evil. In that game, there isn't a single gameplay element that wasn't meticulously thought out as being an actual part of the world itself. For instance, the way you get missions is by actually receiving a briefing disc that you must put inside a player to listen to. Health packs are food items that you can buy in vending machines. You need to scan physical maps. You can buy a newspaper subscription to get info on the world. Repair kits are little robots that you can actually see fixing your hovercraft, and so much more. All these details made the world of Beyond Good and Evil one of the most immersive and believable back then, despite its cartoonish visuals, and today the game still holds up remarkably well. Now imagine the same exact attention to detail but in a realistic Star Wars open world game. I mean, you can take my money right now. Last but not least, I want this game to fully take advantage of its millions of alien species. Another thing I love about Star Wars is seeing all these aliens coexist, live in the same cities, and go to the same shops and bars. Watching all these cultures collide is just fascinating to me. The movies did an okay job with this, but if you wanted to have more information, you kinda had to go online. But in the context of a video game, it would be awesome to be able to collect information about the various species and learn their history. Jedi Fallen Order had a similar system where you could scan creatures or plants, and I definitely think that it would be even more interesting inside an open world with different districts, neighborhoods, and regions. Which is also why the Rings of Catherine could also be a cool setting for the game, since it's basically a trading post where aliens from all across the galaxies come to trade. But no matter what Ubisoft ends up doing, I'm just happy to have an open world Star Wars game. I just hope it will receive the level of polish it deserves and not end up like a glitchy mess. Now it's up to you to tell me, what do you guys want to see in that game? Write down your wishes down below, and if the video does well, I might just do like I did with Hogwarts Legacy, a top 10 of your requests. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a like and subscribe to the channel for more. I'm currently working on a new concept at the moment and will most likely be the next video I release. I hope you guys will dig it. It's definitely different than what I usually do on the channel, but I do believe that it will go much more in depth about games and their design. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. And I'm also currently adding the finishing touches to my Patreon that I should launch in the near future. So yeah, that's pretty much it, and I'll talk to you guys later.